There is an old adage, one that you might have heard from a grandparent or village wise person, the one that says, you get out what you put in, meaning your efforts are matched to some degree by the results or the output. Now, take our nonprofit, Pioneer Knowledge Services, who delivers this cool program that you're listening to right now, takes a bunch of effort that you don't even see. We hope that you obtain value from our efforts to deliver it to your powers of reason. Here is where you come in. You, the listeners. Make our efforts rewarded. Consider donating to keep us moving forward. Visit pioneer-ks.org and click on donate. Pioneer Knowledge Services welcomes you to the next Because You Need to Know. I'm your host, Edwin K. Morris. I serve as president and founder of this organization, and we are thrilled to offer this educational program. These design conversations bring you people's experiences from all over the globe in the field of knowledge management, nonprofit work, and innovation.
Hi, my name is Nicki Usiondek, and I live in the Metro Detroit area. I currently work at Fragment in Knowledge Management, which is a global immigration firm, and it mirrors up perfectly with one of my passions, which is traveling and exploring the world. I would like to go to all 7 continents by the time I'm 50. I plan to go on a cruise to Antarctica the year of my 50th birthday. I create value in quite a few ways. I feel like what I'm able to do is meet people where they're at in regards to the knowledge that they have or understanding knowledge management, and then help them organize it. Organization is really important to knowledge because if people can't sort through and find it, it's kind of meaningless. So that's kind of how I create value is I take a look at what you have, I help you organize it, and then I help you surface it and make sure it's findable. So then users are able to locate it quickly, continue on with their day. Something I can talk about for hours is history and genealogy. I love history and genealogy. It's kind of interesting to see any major historical events in American history I have had family involved in. In fact, I had 2 of my ancestors were on the Lewis and Clark expedition.
So the world of libraries, the intent is to have knowledge at the ready for anyone coming in, and if they don't know how to find it, you would ask a librarian, which the librarian was like the MC of the place, the concierge, the person that got you to what you were searching for. So how does a library person help an organization?
A librarian does do all of that, but they also do more. So Dewey Decimal actually still exists. You'll find it in public libraries at your local library, but there's also Library of Congress, which is more applicable in, I think, the corporate world, right? So the big difference, for the most part, Dewey nonfiction is organized topical, otherwise it's by author, whereas Library of Congress has large buckets and then items are mapped to it. It's essentially like saying, okay, we're going to talk.
Oh, wait a minute. All right. Now, please walk me through like I didn't know that. Walk me through and explain that to me, how that all works. And I think you were getting there, but I just want to hear it from the top.
Like a large bucket is, if you think of the term science, you can't just have a science, the category. I mean, you can, but you have to have subsections of it because science is a very large topic. But in the corporate setting, you can just do it by corporate group, client group, whatever the product line might be. However, there's always going to be another thing to consider, and that is the taxonomy. How do you call it? Are you a global company? Do you have offices located all around the world where perhaps either they might use British English, US English? It's digital, right? So which spelling are you using? I use this example a lot when you talk about filing an application. In UK, they lodge an application. In the US, you file it. So is your user going to actually be finding So part of this is like understanding how your company, and this is always going to be unique to your company, how they refer to items. And then you have to go further. What about the individual groups within that company? Are they referring to it as the same way? And if they aren't, can you capture it and link it? Taxonomy is just basically controlled language, right? So you're taking a term and you're linking terms that are similar. So that way the user is going to find what they're looking for no matter what term they search.
You brought up an interesting point. It's language-based, and it's got to have a definitive glossary of what this is, right? This means this. But you brought up an interesting perspective that it depends on the culture.
Yeah.
Words are not universal, and meanings are not universal. So how does a system or a standardization ever happen between or around the globe? Or does that not even happen? Is everything in its own bucket by nationality?
Maybe. So I'm a huge believer in meeting people where they're at. You cannot go to a group and say, no, you have to conform to this, because it's not going to be successful. You meet them where they're at and you create a solution that will work for them. And it doesn't have to be a large scale for the whole company. Like where I work, where there's over 5,000 employees, there's no way we're going to get 5,000 people to agree on anything. I can't even get 6 girls to agree on a location for our 30th high school reunion right now. Okay, so there's no way I'm going to be able to wrangle 5,000 people to do everything one way.
Now let's get the perspective here. That's 5,000 people in how many different countries?
Oh gosh, I should know this. We have about just under 60 offices. I want to say maybe around 20 or 25 countries.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
The specifics is not really the thing. The thing is that it's tough enough with 5,000 people, but you're talking about across multiple cultures and trying to have a consensus, I would guess, is that, if corporate says X, then all the subsidiaries have to say, yep, that's X to a degree. So it sounds like there's a little modification depending on where they're at. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, absolutely. And then even the other thing is if you look at an IT group versus a finance group, what works for IT is not going to work for finance. So it's not even necessarily language or location, it's also the function.
Wait a minute. Whoa. All right, so explain that a different way. What do you mean by its function?
People look at things differently depending on their skill set or like with their strengths, right? I'm not a numbers person. I'm not a finance person. So I don't know. I just don't know how to word this. I just feel like they aren't necessarily going to be interested in the ins and outs of technology. And I know I'm generalizing, so finance people, please don't come at me.
Well, I mean, I get what you're saying. I'm a communicator. I'm a communications person.
Yeah.
The fastest way you can put me to sleep is put me in front of a stack of paperwork or talk about taxes or some mundane stuff that I don't want to care about or want to know how to do.
Yeah.
I got you.
I once worked for a company who created dictionaries and textbooks for universities and libraries, and my job was to read the items and then tag it with the proper metadata. And I once had to read a 14-volume textbook on taxes. So I can assure you, I am very familiar with that. And the worst was it was an annual thing because taxes change every year. So I really did enjoy reading about other things, though. So it was a trade-off.
Well, yeah, right. You got something out of that. Yeah. What you're talking about in a lot of ways is gaining literacy, understanding and comprehension of the written or recorded word somehow. And that skill set, you're not probably going to finesse very well from a college level until you jump in, with these experiences, then you start honing your craft.
Yeah, but it's really easy to get myopic in your work life, right? I think the average person goes to work and they are very, very knowledgeable in that one area. But whenever they have to work with another group or there's a problem that comes up, they're not necessarily sure who to ask or how to find who they should ask, right? So it's easy to become myopic. And honestly, most employers want you to, because that's how you become an expert in your field. So that's why when I say the value I bring is like understanding that there is no one size fits all option, and nor do we want there to be, because I am a firm believer in that variety is the spice of life, and you can actually come to so many interesting and exciting solutions just from having kind of like the wild, wild west type of mentality, but controlled. So it's like organized chaos, right? One thing that's nice is with SharePoint is, especially SharePoint Online, I'm only going to, when I say SharePoint, I only mean SharePoint Online, specifically that you can actually create a SharePoint site for each of your offices or groups or corporate offices, or even like I am working on a project and there's 5 different people from different departments. So we're going to create a site for this. And then you can actually take the document libraries and Microsoft lists and leverage them all in a way that makes sense for that particular project. You can also even map it further. And this is what I did previously for a solution using PMP search, because you can have the best data, but if people can't find it, or if it's really hard to use, they're going to avoid it. You can then take these, which they call managed property in Microsoft world or the SharePoint world, connect it to a refinable string in the admin center. And that's what makes it, the search engines, you can query it basically. It's not default. Certain columns in SharePoint, you can always query them, but not all. But then the beauty of that too is you can then take those refinable strings and map it to AI. So your chatbot, someone's asking about XYZ, well, we know you have to look in this, anything that's attached to this refinable string. And that's how you also do taxonomy and metadata in SharePoint. The column is the taxonomy.
Let's stress that point, because I'm not sure if just average people know all the things under the hood, so to speak, because what you get at the user interface, the user experience, is one aspect of the technology. And we're going to get into this further when we talk about digital literacy, which is building those skills to interact with these types of resources, to build better currency. And I mean currency and relevancy of data, of information to a consumer, to someone that is searching for content and answer help. If the back end, and I refer to back end as all that taxonomy stuff, right? The metadata, all the stuff that goes into a refined system. If that is not part of the build, then the user is never going to get the full potential of what the software could have been. Who is responsible for building all of that under the hood type of material in an organization?
That, I think, is that area where I don't know if there's necessarily like a common approach.
I would assume most people would commonly think, oh, it's the IT folks. They should be doing all that.
But it's not.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Not.
Why? Why is that not? Why not?
Why? If I want IT to help, so they're more technical. For the longest time, it was writing scripts, doing patches for the server when it was server based, making sure that the health of the whole cloud environment is great, that there's good security around it, that you have dual authentication. Like that's like IT is more kind of the mechanic, if you will.
The mechanics, right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with your car analogy.
Okay.
But the mechanic isn't necessarily the designer of the car. They know how the car works.
Or the driver, right? They're not behind the wheel. They're not the skilled driver most of the time. They're the ones that know the engine, the transmission, the rear end, all that mechanical stuff. So you're right. I think you're right. The IT folks are the car mechanics in this example. So who does the metadata?
I would love to say, oh, obviously this person, but I don't think any company has that answer. I know
exactly. Like who does this, right? Does it naturally fall to KM to do the metadata? Or is it just simply somebody on the C-suite says we need a policy on this and everybody's responsible?
So first of all, I don't think every company knows about KM or actually has KM implemented at their company. And also the C-suite, if they all knew about KM, oh my God, that would be amazing as well, right? Yeah, you're talking about my dream scenario right there. I'm fortunate because that's my current situation with work, but like that would be like the best case scenario. Yeah. So that is one of those gaps. I think a lot of times I'll see this with groups, right? Like they know how to start and build. Like I can spin up SharePoint real quick, but then you go to the page or the site because they've started using it and now they're like getting confused and lost. They want some help with it, and it is literally out of the box SharePoint, not really actually going to help them achieve what they're trying to achieve. Folder within folder within folder. Don't get me started on that. It's like something that it's nails on a chalkboard to me. And then that's where the problem comes.
Let me refresh the listener in case they never had this experience, that just because an organization bought some technology does not mean they operate it or rolled it out in a correct manner. So what she's talking about right there, I've seen done
Mm-hmm.
multiple places where we got the SharePoint and it became a shared drive.
Yep.
People just loaded stuff up and dumped stuff there, didn't do the back end, did not do the mechanical work to make it operable, optimally operable for the user.
Yeah, it is so important to understand how to actually leverage it. There's two sides of SharePoint. There's the backstage area. If you're like, I'm going to switch to the theater analogy. I apologize, but if you're at the theater, the backstage where the actors are changing costumes, there's the stagehands moving sets all around and making it all organized. And then there's the audience who's seeing the front stage and it's like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Look at this, look at that. And they have no clue about the like ugly backstage. I think it's sad because people don't ever really get the full functionality of SharePoint. They're losing out on an incredibly powerful tool. I don't know how many times I see people use Excel when a SharePoint list would have been the actual better place to have that data. Now, granted, you don't get the lovely, pretty charts and pie charts and things like that, but you can export it to Excel and then still get those things.
There's always a better way, right? I want to bring this back into, because everything you've talked about, to me, is like learning a language. If you are not fluent in a language, you're not going to get it. You won't get all of it. You may get a little bits. Let's use that analogy as where we're going to go, which is literacy. I like this because it's easy to get, right? So if you know a little bit of Spanish, I can order beer, hamburguesa, I can order about 10 things that really but I just take a Spanish word that I know and put it in an English sentence and they get it. Am I fluent? Oh gosh, no. Once they start talking real fast, I don't hear anything. This is a similar skill set. And if an organization is not smart and does not operate full potential of what they bought, they are not fluent. So let's flip that coin over to literacy. Digital literacy, I want to pull up a definition here, and this is from the official website of the Institute of Museum and Library Services. It's from USA.gov. This is informationliteracy.gov. Their definition of digital literacy is pretty simple. Digital literacy is the ability to use the internet and other digital tools to find accurate information and apply that information to their own lives. Really, it's just knowing the language, having an efficiency and proficiency in that skill set of not just the user interface. Yep, I can use Excel, but I was blown away for the first time when somebody taught me what a pivot table was. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I could have been, and I'm populating slides manually. And I was like, oh my gosh, the lights went on, right? But the point is that how does an organization become proficient in its own digital literacy, let alone its people?
It has to start from the top down. It has to be part of the culture. It really does. I manage people. I'm a manager. So how I approach it is my job as their manager is to make sure I give them the tools, the support, and the opportunities to grow their career and get better. And sometimes that means if I don't know a program or something, like getting them training outside of the firm so that way they're able to fill up. So part of it has to be a culture. I also think it's super important to create a culture where it's okay to fail. And what I mean by that is not that you're the weather person who always gets the weather wrong, that it is okay to try something knowing that there is a pretty good chance it might not work, because you're going to learn lessons about what will work out of that. And let's say the first time you go take a chance on it, it doesn't really work, but you can see potential. It can be an iterative process. Like keep trying and fine-tuning until you get it to a point where you can have some really great tools. Like PMP search to me is one of those things. When I first learned about PMP search, I was like, I'm never going to be able to figure this out.
What is that acronym?
I don't know what PMP stands for.
Oh my gosh, we are going to learn. PMP search.
Yeah, it's a web
certified,
part for SharePoint.
So it's okay, got it. You're not project management, right? Is that a project management thing?
No.
PMP, project management professional.
No.
Introduction to PMP modern search, GitHub.
PMP.
Protocol.
I know, this is the hard part. Yes. Okay. Okay. According to Share It Solutions, SharePoint PNP is pattern and processes. It's best described as an initiative that includes samples and guidance on how to transform your full trust code solutions for an add-in model. It's not just search. There's other things you can leverage PNP with and do stuff with it. So if you have really structured lists with a ton of content, and you documents anything that you want people to be able to surface quickly, you can use PNP search. You have to learn query language, so KQL and FQL. Then the queries are basically embedded into the web parts, so the backstage area. On the front page, it's a lovely vertical. So you click on a column, you select which country you want or whatever, the topic, and all the information displays nicely. When I first saw that, I was like, I'm never going to learn that. And then not only did I learn it, I taught my team, and we use it regularly. We created policy centers. You can just quickly find things, and you can surface from more than one SharePoint site.
Everything around the enterprise.
Yeah.
Yeah. This sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I've been around KM for a couple of weeks, and I had never even, I worked around SharePoint because this is just that heavy lift part of a well-designed rollout of a software system that apparently most people don't ever get to. Too busy putting out fires, right?
Yeah.
They're like, okay, we got SharePoint, let's roll.
Okay.
What would be your advice to an organization that doesn't know what they know?
Send your people to, what do they call it now? Oh, God. They've changed. It used to be SharePoint Fest.
But professional development is what you're saying.
Send them to a conference.
Yeah, right. Send them to a conference. That's an investment in their personnel that doesn't really show an immediate or a displayed return on investment. Would you agree?
No, because what ends up happening is you come back from these conferences and you've seen things, and you can sit in these little sessions where they teach you how to actually execute some of the items. In April, my team and I went to the North American Cloud Club and just outside of Dallas, and we came back and I learned about Clarity, Microsoft Clarity, that you can have it sit on your SharePoint, basically your tenants, and then you're able to get really, really good analytics, and to the point where you can see where people are missing the gaps, right? So how do they get to there from here? And then you can actually see it. So we were able to get that implemented, and we have results it's not even been 2 months.
I hear what you're saying, but most of the organizations out there that control purse strings, as soon as you say, hey, I'd like to send my team to a conference, they're like, oh, brother, how much is that going to cost? Oh, that's a lot of money. But that's only the half of it. The other half is what you explained is when you got back, you had time and space and resources to add in whatever was learned. Most organizations will send you to a conference and then you come back and everything's as normal as it was before you left because nobody wants to do anything. Or you're fighting a system, or you're fighting an attitude, or. Yeah. I get what you're saying. If you got the resources, send your people, get that professional development, but how do you let them come back and experiment to see if they can make it better?
We create a culture where it's okay to fail. You're able to play
back at the beginning. We're right back at the start.
Right. So my team and I, we each walked away from that conference with a few things we were going to play with, all of them different, luckily. And so we're figuring out ways to run with it and see the growth from it. This is what's going to happen if you have SharePoint and you don't have the proper people leveraging it with the training. You're going to end up going to consultants, right? Oh, we want to have an intranet. We don't have SharePoint we have SharePoint out of the box, but we don't know how to make templates or user design. So we're going to go to a template company. We're going to spend, on average, it'll be about $150,000 to get it up and running, and then $40,000 a year for maintenance. You could actually just send a couple of people to SharePoint, to a conference.
For a lot less money.
So the person who controls the purse string, what would you rather do?
Yeah. I'm with you, sister. Hey, I am with you because we are simpatico here. I get what you're saying, but I already drank the Kool-Aid. I am trying to get you to pierce the ears of the listener out there to say, maybe we should be thinking of this differently.
Yeah.
If you got an organization that's got 10 to 15% of their gross is spent on consultancies, you got to wonder if you'd have flipped it and said, we could invest half that money in our own people to build the skill sets versus giving it away, because it is a one-way street. Once you've given that power away, and the iterations change. We're
Yeah.
in version 11, and now, we got to have that whole thing up. Guess who's going to get the phone call again?
Yeah.
That's not smart money spends right there.
Or that's where it goes to IT, and then IT has to try to figure out what in the heck that happened 10 years ago, rather than being a less than 10-minute fix because you have experts on site. It's a 2 to 3 week where they're like digging through things. Additionally, this is another part of knowledge management, is knowledge capture. So you have your people with these skill sets, and it's getting captured and shared within the team. So that person can leave, but guess what? It doesn't matter. The skills are being like retained.
It's still a resource.
Yeah.
So I want to bring in a term because it's one of my favorite terms, and everything you've laid out is what this is. And you may not use the word, but it's called future proof, right? Future proofing.
Yeah.
So Cambridge defines future proof, and it's hyphenated in their spelling. Future proof, to design software, a computer, etc., so that it can still be used in the future even when technology changes.
Yeah.
Now, if we were to future proof the personnel of the organization, and that's what I'm hearing you say, you're constantly cultivating your own people. Why give away the farm? Let's build the expertise within us.
Yeah.
And then we don't have to rely on anybody. Send them to conferences, send them to trainings, get all this brainy stuff going, and we can do it ourselves.
Well, you can still work with consultants. Like I work with consultants, especially like in regards to like user design. I don't want to pretend like we're experts in everything. We aren't. So I think it's important to know that it's okay to go when you have a very targeted need to have someone who is a subject matter expert and work with them. But I also think it's important to know that you can probably do more than you think you can. I know right now there's probably someone saying, oh, okay, so how big is her staff? She said she manages people. So the company I work for is between 5,000 and 6,000 people. I am a team, including myself, of 3. Yeah.
So in this digital literacy concept, it sounds like the KM role is a bit technical and a bit around the software.
No, we have different groups within KM. There are the subject matter experts who are helping capture data and make sure that, they have the trained eye for it, writing it, right, making sure that it's cohesive, consistent, written in a way that lay people can also understand it. It's not so, not a lot of jargon, things like that. I do work on the tech side of knowledge, and I think it's important to understand that knowledge management isn't just one thing. There's several aspects of it, right? So without the content, the tech part's meaningless. Also, you have to do knowledge capture. You have to also understand when to rewrite something, when to revisit something, get feedback. You're never going to get it right the first time. You're never going to know everything, and that's okay. Also, training. Training is a huge part of knowledge management, and even change management is a part of knowledge management because people do get stressed from change. I personally love change. I thrive on it. I think it's exciting and interesting, but not everyone feels that way. I'm also the person who I get to the point where my job is just status quo and it's perfect and I can just show up and go home. I am so bored. And a lot of people spend their whole career waiting to get to that point. I want to have challenges. I want to be in the weeds. It's important to know that knowledge management is a multifaceted area and it's really interesting.
You just shined a light on yourself. I'm going to jump on that. When did you become inquisitive? Because everything you just talked about is an inquisitive person. You have an appetite to learn. And if you're not learning, you're not doing.
Yeah.
Did you just come out like that?
My mother would say yes. My mom would say I was born that way. Then no one knows what my first word was. And my mom and dad were worried. They thought I had delayed speech because I wouldn't talk in front of them. But I would tell I'm the youngest. So my sister would be like, oh, Nicki wants a glass of water. Nicki wants a cookie. And my mom was like, sure, she does. And then when my sister went to preschool, I had to go into the kitchen and be like, Mom, can I have a glass of water? And she's like, yeah, you can speak sentences.
Oh my gosh, you talk?
Yeah. But then she wished that I had not started talking because my favorite word was always why.
Why is that? Why?
And, I was the kid where if you gave me a toy that was a mechanical type of toy, I would take it apart and then put it back together.
To understand it, right? You wanted to understand.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting perspective. Would you say that you can represent that in a job interview or on your CV or on your resume? What are the skill sets, or not even skill sets? What are the personality traits you want to have in a KMer?
Yeah, I'm good at building relationships and then finding ways to make things work for everyone. So I don't know how you capture that. And this is something my boss and I talk a lot about, like, how do you actually figure out if that's the right role? So what we tend to do is show all the ugly parts, because if they are excited about the ugly parts, they're going to be fine. But then it scares away people. You know?
Explain that in a different way, please.
Okay, so obviously part of having good data or knowledge is making sure that you have proper policies and procedures in place that capture things, and you kind of do have to be somewhat rigid with it because it's consistent. It would also be good data management practices. So there's a little bit of like being rigid and also flexible too. So here's the workflow. These are the things that happen.
What you're saying is you've got to have solid governance and policy and predictability baked in, and people are just going to have to suck that up. That's not a waiverable thing. We don't get a choice in that. That's how we do things, and that's the operating system.
No, absolutely not. This is why I say you also have to be a little bit flexible, because what if AI happens and now you have new options? You can't just stay stuck. Like, I tell everyone, it should be a living thing. It shouldn't be something that, okay, internet's done.
Yep, we're done.
No, it has to
Governance is set. That's the way we're going to do it from now on.
Yeah. It's just not how life works. And we live in the gray. No one lives in a black and white area. So, you know. I'm
in a gray world myself, so I get you. So I'm going to ask you, Nicki, how do you define knowledge management?
The process of making the right knowledge available to the right person at the right time so they can give the right advice or have the right solution available to them.
Is knowledge management an art or a science?
It's both. I can't. If you're like, what's your favorite thing? I don't have favorites. It depends on my mood. But it is both. It's both. There's an art to it and there's a science to it.
Agreed. That I hear that often. You know, the right data, right answer, right at the right moment, in the right way.
Yeah, you have to capture it. You have to curate it. You have to make it accessible. What I like about knowledge management is it's always something new, always something different. Like, I feel like I never stop learning. It goes back, I guess, to being inquisitive. I remember one of my first times I was in library school and I was volunteering at a public library, and I helped this gentleman. He was trying to figure out how he could find out information about applying for Social Security. So I went and helped him find it online, and we printed it off, and he was just so thankful. And that's like what I like about what I do.
That's a good feeling thing, right? Helping somebody and they are appreciative. But if he came back for the next 10 days, well, I need to find a cat. I need to do this. And then you're like, whoa. There's got to be a point where I'm going to show you so you can do it, so I don't have to do it for you, right?
And that's where training comes in. This is the fun thing that I have learned in life. Some people just aren't going to get it. And that's okay, right? And number one, it's job security for all of us that you get it. And number two, there are some things I just don't get. I can't hold someone else at fault when I myself am just as guilty, but with a different topic. So is there a way to make it like the perfect world where you show someone something once and they get it? No.
They're done. Yep.
You know, and honestly, I think what it really does is also make all of us remember that we're human. AI is not going to take your job, guys. Not yet. Maybe talk to me in 10 years.
The other side of being inquisitive and a long life learner is that you like to teach people.
Share. Knowledge sharing.
You like to help them to understand. But there's a bit of the teaching piece because you want them to become digital literate people, right? You want them to build the skill. It's all those things. And I thank you very much for being here, Nicki. You're a very enthused individual.
Thanks. Yeah, I love my job. And I feel like not everyone gets to say that. And then also, like, the fun part of my job and part of the reasons why I love it is there's a good chunk of my day where I often feel like I'm just goofing off, but it's a learning process. You know what I mean? So why wouldn't I be excited about it?
Well, that's the perfect position for what I see in front of me, and that is a very inquisitive and gifted individual. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining this extraordinary journey, and we hope the experiences gained add value to you and yours. See you next time at Because You Need to Know. If you'd like to contact us, please email byntk@pioneer-ks.org or find us on LinkedIn.
Thank you for listening to Because You Need to Know, the reference podcast in knowledge management. My name is Sonny Toneme. As an art administrator, Because You Need to Know has been my go-to podcast and has helped me hone my management skills. Please consider sponsoring the podcast with your business.